Hello everyone, and welcome to today's Fantasy Clash video where we take a look at the Aegyptus faction and the choices available to the player. As usual, we'll start with the core cards, which will make up the majority of your force, starting with 10 of them. We start with Raz Warriors. These fill a very similar role to the Alliance Swordsmen in that they do not excel anything in particular, but have average stats which allow you to use them in attack or defense. This makes them the all-rounder core choice for Aegyptus. The Scarabs are next, and they function like a nuisance unit to annoy your opponent. They won't do much damage, but with the Swarm ability making them harder to hit, an impressive size of 15, there are lots of them in a swarm. It could take your opponent a bit of time to get rid of them. Next we have the Horus Archers. This unit is your ranged attack core choice. They can allow you to attack smaller units from range without fear of losing your card. Embalmers, on the other hand, are not combat troops at all. These guys are your medics, and they are the best in the game at doing it. The Embalm skill allows them a saving throw of 5+ for any card that's in their range of 3, which would normally be removed from play. The more you have in range, the more dice you throw to try and make that 5+. It can be brutal for your opponent to see themselves win a combat, only for the Embalmers to keep the card in the battle. They are very weak though, so be careful your opponent does not pick them off. Desert Scouts are the final choice. They are not combat cards, but they have the Scout ability. This allows you to reveal opponents' cards that are still face down, which are within their range. Knowing troop placements is vital for planning your own strategy, and this card can greatly improve that. Standard armies, there are 4 types with 3 cards each available to the Aegyptus. You can start with any 5. First up, we've got the Thal Scholar. Quite a unique card, and at first glance looks terrible. Low numbers means you have to keep it out of combat, but it does have the Scholar ability, which will allow you to put some serious debuffs on enemy cards. These debuffs stack as well, so multiple Scholars can cause some problems to even the best cards. Moving on to the Priests of Aegyptus, another card that's not great in combat, but they are not as squishy as other priest-type cards from other factions. It's because of the blessings that they have access to that you'll want to take them. These blessings include the Blessing of the Asp, which gives the card a poison ability, which is a dangerous skill, which can help take out adjacent cards. The Blessing of Horus can give your ranged units +1 range. The Blessing of Set can really frustrate your opponent and only allow them to move 1 card in their next turn. And finally, the Blessing of Ra, which gives them a big combat buff to your card in its next battle. The more priests in play, the more chance of success, and the more concurrent blessings you can have in play at once. The Necropolis Guards, on the other hand, are built for combat. They have a slightly higher defense score, but they give you a solid veteran choice that can hold its own in combat. With less combat-oriented cards in this army, they can give your army a bit more staying power. Finally, we have the Giant Scorpion. These guys are the most attack-minded of the Aegyptus veteran choices. They have high attack, but even though defense is still okay, they can be vulnerable to the big hitters of your opponent's army. But they do have the Killing Blow ability, which means a natural 6 rolled in combat wins them the fight. So they always have a chance, no matter who they go up against. Moving on now, we'll take a look at the Elite cards. These are very rare, with only 3 types of 2 each, but we'll start with 3 of them. First up is the Sobek Crocodile. No fancy rules with this guy, he's just a big beast. A high attack score and a huge size score of 17 means he's going to dominate most combats that he finds himself in. If you prefer magic though, the mummies are your choice. A lot tougher in combat than normal spellcasters, it will be harder for your opponent to snipe them. And of course, they gain access to the magic deck, which we'll have a look at later. Finally, we have the Amunet Guardians. These are a defensive choice and will be very hard for your opponent to get them off the battlefield, which is exactly what you want, as the poison ability will be affecting units around them, so the further into enemy lines you can get them, the better. Okay, let's have a look now at the character choices. You get 2 hero choices and 3 champion choices, with 1 of each starting the battle. The first hero choice is Cleopatra. As well as having strong attack and defense scores, she also has some magic resistance and the Beloved of Aegyptus special rule. This means that when she's on the field of play, your entire army gets a small buff. Guard Captain Jaf is very similar, but he is better in combat. However, his ability gives him a big buff to Necropolis Guards. So if you take Jaf, make sure to stack up on them to get the most benefit. For champions, we start with the Dark Embalmer. Not much combat-wise, but he acts as another Embalmer, which gives you a saving throw to cards that are in range. Also, though, he gives a big buff to any mummy cards in battle, which will help your spell casting. Imhotep, on the other hand, is the champion choice for using magic. His magic ability means he can get access to the entire magic deck, and his magic score of 17 means he can dominate in the magic phase and go toe-to-toe with the best spellcasters in the game. Ramesses is the final champion choice. He's a very rare for a character card in that he has a range score of 3 which he can use to attack with. This makes him an excellent sniper to take out your opponent's cards from range. He has the added bonus of giving a big buff to any Horus archers, so you can pepper your opponent from range. In addition to those character cards, as usual, there's also a Titan card available, in this case the Sphinx, and the legend card, the Pharaoh. Both these cards are game changers. You do not start the battle with them. The only way to get them in is to play them as a reinforcement, so you need to make sure these reinforcements keep coming, so you've got a better chance of getting game changing cards onto the field of battle. Switching across now to have a look at the magic of items that are available. Start with the Staff of Thoth. It can only be given to a card with the Scholar ability, so Thoth Scholars. The card can use the Scholar ability twice per turn. Okay, so that's doubling the effectiveness of that specific ability. The Ankh of Set, when it's in play, it prevents other magic items on the battlefield from working. So if your opponent's put a specifically nasty magic item down, you can have this one in play, which negates any other magic item from working. If there are no magic items though, it's got the added bonus of giving you 1 extra d6 in defense. The Bow of Horus, the card with the bow gains an extra 1d6 for making ranged attack rolls, so in the hands of either Horus archers or Ramesses, it can make them even more deadlier. The Mask of Ra gains 1 reroll per turn, so whoever's got the mask can reroll any 1 dice during their turn. Very useful if you keep rolling those ones. And the Sarcophagus of Souls, when that is in play, you gain +1 to all your magic casting rolls, and in addition your opponent gets -2 on their magic casting rolls. So if that's in play, it's going to really put the magic phase into your favour. And we'll finish off our look at Aegyptus by checking out their magic spells. First up, we've got Resurrect. When you cast the spell, you can take a card from your opponent's Conquer pile and immediately play it as your own reinforcement. So your opponent's done all that work to get rid of one of your big cards. If you've got a space in your back line for a reinforcement, you can play this spell and get them straight back onto the battlefield. Quicksand, playing your opponent's card. The card may no longer move. Very frustrating for your opponent, especially if they're deep in your territory and you're worried about stopping a dangerous card. This will stop them in their tracks. Plague of Locusts, casting your opponent's card. The card then suffers -3 in all combat rolls, so big debuff on the card there that you can use. Raz Fury, cast on your opponent's card. The card must roll 11 plus and 2d6 plus its magic score, be removed from play. So if they've got a low magic score, that's going to be extremely difficult for them to do, so it's a good way of removing dangerous cards. And finally, Sandstorm. When Sandstorm is cast, your opponent cannot move any cards for the next 3 turns. You can move as normal. So that can really restrict your opponent. The Aegyptus faction does have a lot of weapons to stop movement. And that's it for our look at the Aegyptus army. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll be continuing these and doing the next one, I think, will be the Catastrophe. Thank you very much.